go. And let me get my. I don't like that. Okay, so can you still hear me? Can you still see me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I actually can't see you at the moment because for some reason when you're recording you can't minimize Zoom and put it in the corner of your screen while you work off of another screen. So I'll do the best I can. If you want to say anything, please do unmute yourself and let me know because I can't see you raising your hands at the moment. So today we are going to have some fun. I think when you get to the last class and it's Adon Olam, those two things come together and say to me, let's have fun with this. So we'll do some of the usual stuff, talking about the sources of the prayer, the meanings, and so on and so forth. But we'll also do some fun listening to some things today. Okay, so this is Adon Olam. Adon Olam literally means master of the universe, but I don't mean He-Man, for those of you who are of my generation and know that cartoon. But anyway, it's
Yeah,
page
okay, no.
um, it's page 187 in the Sim Shalom Sidor. I'm actually going to share my screen from the Sachs Sidor today because I actually like the translation a lot better. I'll explain that in a minute. So where does Adon Olam appear in the service? Adon Olam is in the conservative Siddur and many other Siddurim as well. It appears at the very end of the Shabbat Musaf service. Um, but it really should be. Oh, what's that? Okay, I gotta let Teresa in. She's waiting. There we go. Should be the very last prayer that we say when we go to sleep, and the very first prayer we say when we wake up. That's because the last verse is, "Into God's hand I commit my spirit when I sleep, and I shall awake." I don't know if that's great grammar, awaken, but anyway, it says awaken in that siddur. But anyway, so we also include Adon Olam in the Seder Kriyat Shema Al Hamita, the bedtime Shema routine, which makes sense because that's on going to sleep, as well as on a person's deathbed because that is also going to sleep. Um, sorry to put it that way. Um, so that's our source. By the way, just to reiterate for anyone who's joined us, you know what? I'm going to try and do this side by side. Hold on one second. Ooh, that works. Good. Hang on one second. That is much better. Now I can see you all. Okay. So, okay. So let's do a read through of the Hebrew, the transliteration. The Sim Shalom does a nice job making it rhyme in English, which a lot of Siddurim do, and I'd probably make a point of it because it rhymes in Hebrew. Although that's easy because every line just ends with Ra. That's, Adon Asher Malach Kol Yitzirni Vra Le'ed Nasa B'Chavso Kol Azai Melech Shemoni Kra. So and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at uh, the Hebrew in this one. Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen. So Adon Olam, yes, we can all see the screen, the Sidor?
Yeah.
Okay, I just like to check because I'm never sure it's going to work right, although it usually does. Adon Olam, master of the world. Asher Malach, who has reigned, past tense, Malach. Beterem kol Yetzir Nivra, um, before the creation of everything. Le'et Na'asa, in the time of doing, of his God's doing, Bechef Sokol, in the creation of everything, when all things were made. Azai Melech Shemonikra. At that time, Azai, Melech, king or sovereign, Shemonikra, we called his name. Yep, any questions? No? Okay, I thought I heard something. Okay. Ve'acharei kichlot hakol, and after all these things shall stop, kichlot hakol, levado yimloch nora. God alone will continue to reign in awe. Again, Yimloch has the same root word as Melech or Malach, which is to reign or reigned. Vehu Haya Vehu Hoveh. And
Actually,
God,
isn't Yimloch the imperative or the future Yimloch he shall?
either of those, yes, the imperative or the future. The yud at the
Yeah,
beginning of a verb implies either the imperative, you go do this, or whoever go do this, or it will be, or may it be. Okay, so it's interesting. It's context based, right? Either may it be,
yeah.
or it will, or go do it. Vehu haya vehu hoveh. Uh, uh, God was vehu hoveh. God is Vihu Yihya. There's that yud again, which
And he
puts it
will be.
will be exactly Betif Ara in glory. Vihu Echad ve'ein sheni, and God is one ve'ein sheni. There is no second. Lahamshil lo lahachbira. Alone is God lo lahachbira, beyond compare. Beli Reshit, without beginning, like Bereshit bara, right? Reshit. Beli Reshit, without beginning. Beli Tachlit, Tachlis, the end. Let's get to the end of it, the Tachlis of it, right? Tachlit,
To
there's
the
no end.
point of.
Yeah. Velo Ha'oz Vehamisra. And God's is the glory, and what does they translate here? God's might, God's rule are everywhere. It's a little bit prosaic, but okay. Vehu Eli, and God is my God. Vechai Goali, and my eternal life giver. Vetzur Chevli, and God is the rock. Chevli, Chevel is like depending, so the rock that I depend on. Be'et Sarah, in the time of my Tzara is the same root as is the Hebrew word for tsuris, trouble, right? Sa'arat,
Yiddish word.
which literally means, or not literally, but I guess
Yeah,
biblically
well,
it means
tzara is
leprosy.
sadness, and
Yeah,
in the Chumash, tzara is the rash,
right.
the
The
pestilence.
leprosy. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
quote unquote leprosy.
Quote unquote leprosy. It's not really leprosy, but a rash. I like that. So, but I love how that word translates into modern parlance, as tsuris. Well, that's not modern, but anyway. Vehu nisi umanosli. God is my representative. Nisi is like is the one who carries me from lanas, is the root word, and also nasi is a prince or a president who carries me and so forth. So God is my president, my chairman. Umanos li, and my safety shelter. Menat kosi beyom ekra, my cup, my portion when I cry. Beyom ekra, call out. Ekra, kore, same word as we have here, nikra, same root word. Beyado afkidruchi, and here's the sort of the bedtime and waking up part. Beyado afkidruchi, beyado means in God's hand. Afkidruchi, I entrust my ruach, my spirit, or my soul. Be'et ishan ve'aira, when at the time when I go to sleep and when I wake up and when I go to sleep, um, lie down.
Actually, yeah, it's to sleep and awake. It starts
Yeah.
with the sleep, right?
Uh,
Yashen,
uh,
Ishan, Yashen.
yeah, yeah. The era, and from the same root as it's really having to do with like nightfall and morning. So they actually did reverse it here. The
Mm-hmm.
era is when the light comes up, or when my light is. It starts with an aleph, so that means like ani. So when my light shines, kind of nice Hebrew. Ve'im ruchi geviati, and my spirit is with um, ve'im ruchi geviati. Yeah, God is with me, or really my spirit is with God. Geviati, I won't fear. Adonai li, God is mine. Velo ira, and I will not be afraid. Interesting. They switch it in the English here. Body and
Yeah.
soul from harm he keep. Ve'imruchi, right? Geviati will keep. Adonai li velo ira. God is mine, and I will not be.
What's the root for Giviati? What's the root for Giviati?
Givat or
The Hebrew root?
yeah. Um, It's probably Gimel Vav Yud Gavai. I'm not sure though.
Gavoa.
Gavua? No, because that would have a hay in it. Yeah. Anyway, uh, yeah, it seems to be. I don't know. Could be Gav. It could be
A
Gav.
lot of them are kind of free translations. I mean, they're not literal translations,
Right.
and they change depending on how and on the Siddur that you read
Yeah.
to some
And
extent.
and also remember
Except
this.
that I noticed, because I have the Shabbat Siddur here, it's also these some of these words are equally reversed as here.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Well, the Sim Shalom Siddur is incredibly poetic rather than prosaic. So that's one thing going on.
Jason,
Yeah.
Jason, the Saxidor has got exactly the same translation as the one you have.
That's because I'm using the Saxidor.
Are you?
Yeah.
I thought you were using. I thought you were using the
No,
Sim.
but Teresa, it's actually very close because I have the other one here.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few nuance differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I chose this one because the Sim Shalom Sidor is so trying so hard to rhyme that it's not great, translation, great translation
Oh,
tool.
I see.
Okay, so that's that. Let's look at the history, because I think we have so much listening to do that I want to kind of get through this, but this is interesting stuff. It's been part of the Shabbat liturgy in its place at the end of Musaf since the 15th century CE. But we know it was written much longer ago, again, because of the Cairo Geniza. It's a wonderful source for figuring out when things were written and who wrote them. We literally get signatures on pages, so that's kind of cool. It's often attributed, or most often attributed, to the poet Shlomo ibn Gabirol, who lived from 1021 to 1058. So, not a long life, but incredibly prolific. We're going to see that in a minute. Because of we can tell that it's Gabirol, not least because of the sign pages, or the Sidurim that this appeared in, or manuscripts that this appeared in. The antiquity of the language gives it away. um, you can tell that looking at Gabirol's other works, you can tell what the style is, and so forth. But there's disagreement because Adon Olam doesn't appear in the prayer book Sefer Abu Draham, which is one of the main modern Sidurim, which came about 1340-ish. And even more so, Ibn Gabirol's other poetry doesn't have such regular metric structure, although that doesn't necessarily mean very much because, Paitanim poets can play with different styles and meters and so forth. But although we're going to see really, we're going to spend a little bit of time and see just how cool this meter is. So who is or was Ibn Gabirol? He was an 11th century Andalusian poet and a Jewish philosopher in the Neoplatonic tradition. He published over 100 poems as well as works of biblical exegesis, philosophy, ethics, and satire. So it's uh, he really covered a lot of different types of artistic ground. And one source credits Ibn Gabirol with creating a golem to do household chores. Very interesting. Some other facts, which I think you'll find quite interesting, as I did. By age 17, he had composed 5 of his his most well-known poems. One of them enumerating all 613 commandments of the Torah. That's one composition. At age 17, also, he composed a 200-verse elegy for his friend Yakutiel. By age 19, he had composed a 400-verse alphabetical and acrostic poem teaching the rules of Hebrew grammar. Um, he never married and spent the rest of his adult life wandering. I wonder why. I mean, okay, those are long poems, really, really long poems.
Sounds a fun person.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's about the author or
Okay.
supposed author. Let's talk about the nusach and the melody. Well, we're not in the main part of Musaf proper, so the nusach is not required in as much as compositions come into play at this point. Um, However, in Adon Olam compositions, it seems that the minor mode, which is consistent with Aleinu, if you're going to do it Nusach, um, which is consistent with the full Kaddish at the end. No, not the full Kaddish, that's in Hashem Malach, but consistent with the Psalm of the Day and so forth. So the minor mode um, is applied to Adon Olam most often in composition. For such a well-known hymn, very few compositions are actually considered traditional, maybe 4 or 5 melodies. And the most common was composed, we think, by the Russian cantor Eliezer Mordechai Gurevich. So that's Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra. So that's cantor Mordechai Gurevich, Eliezer Mordechai Gurevich. And supposedly the second most common melody is the one the British Rite uses on the high holidays, on the evenings, which you'll see alludes to the Kaddish. It's Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Le'et Na'asa B'chefso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra. And the melody repeats over and over again. Yitkadal V'yitkadal Shemei Rabbah. So you can see that it's using the evening high holidays nusach baked right into the Adon Olam. Let's just do that again. It's kind of cool. Yitkadal Adon Olam Asher Malach. So you can see it baked right in there. It's kind of cool. I love when there's like the composers pay that close attention to the nusach. I love that. In the Renaissance period, Baroque composition style led it to become arranged in antiphonal style for cantor and up to 8-part choir. Although that kind of petered out as the main, like even Italian, which is where the Renaissance period Baroque music was typically being fashioned. In that environment, it petered out, and then, of course, didn't spread much further. Because nobody could sing along with those glorious compositions. So what I'd like to do now is like to share with you the Salomoni Rossi Adon Olam, which you'll listen carefully is in antiphonal, meaning it goes back and forth between two sort of parallel choirs, separate choirs, as it were. And also it's written in the Baroque harmonic style, so melody and counterpoint and very many key changes and modulations. And you'll see that. Jeffrey, did you have a question? Or is that just adjusting the camera? Oh, you're muted. No, no, nothing. Okay. All right, so I'm going to pull this up and bear with me a moment. I'm going to share my screen. That, and nope, that's not the right one. Sorry, guys. Hang on. That one. How to best do this? Okay, let's try that. It's like not showing me the exact screen I need. Sorry. Control and select multiple windows. I don't want to. How about I just share my screen? Okay, you should. Can somebody unmute and just tell me if you can see this Jewish Baroque music?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, here we go.
Never
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
It's actually sounds very much like Christian clerical music, but according to the to my history of Jewish music, which I have by a fellow by the name of Turina, and apparently he's one of the most. It's that counterpoint and that style was actually invented by Rossi.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it very well could
You
have
know,
been. And
which is rather interesting.
yeah, although I'm not sure. I'm not sure that style was invented by Rossi. Certainly Rossi brought it to Judaism. Rossi
Well,
was
no,
the
he
first one.
brought it in a different scale as well.
Oh, I'm sure, because when
Yeah,
you
because
adapt
that's
Christian,
what, yeah. And actually, most of these, also some of the subsequent composers, you know, like Darius Milhaud, for example, he also kind of brought in a different scaling as well into the music that he composed.
Very good. So, moving on. So we know that Adon Olam is fits just about any melody, right? I think that that's a sort of a common bit of knowledge. If not, let me tell you why. Adon Olam is made up of short phrases. That's the first thing that you need for flexibility, malleability that way. It's also written in an iambic tetrameter, right? We've heard of iambic pentameter, which is a lot of Shakespeare works is written that way. So here we have a iambic tetrameter. So that's interesting. So what is iambic? Iambic is bum 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 bum, so like a heartbeat. And then tetrameter means four quarter notes or crotchets to a measure. Okay, so with four quarter notes and a bum 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 bum, which is a three rhythm like a waltz, dum ba da dum dum bum 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 bum, right? So that's a waltz pattern, 3/4, and combined with a 4/4. When you have both of those things overlaid on top of each other, you cover every possible time signature. So uh, so for example, you've got 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 3/2, 6/8, 12/8, and so forth. So you cover every type of rhythm, natural, normal rhythm, not, we're talking about tetrameters, not pentameters, um, in Western music. Now, so we're going to have a little bit of fun with that. Um, gosh, my phone's ringing off the hook here. So I'm going to get to some multimedia in a second, but so just because we can use Adon Olam for any or overlay any melody doesn't mean that we necessarily should. It should Adon Olam within the context of services or prayers, evening and morning, should be reverent. The times that perhaps we can step away from that are times like Purim, when everything's upside down, Simchat Torah, which is hold on one second. I'm sorry, gang. Just hang on one quick second. I've got to take care of this, otherwise my phone's just going to keep ringing. Hold on. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I thought what I would do is tell you a little bit of an anecdote here. So when I was singing at the Shar Shemaim synagogue in Montreal, Stephen Glass was the director at the time, and he every year for Simchat Torah he would compose or arrange a medley of Adon Olam. Well, it wasn't always a medley. Sometimes it was just a standalone piece, but always to something that incredibly irreverent. So I'd like to share with you an audio file of some of the things we did. It doesn't take very long. Let me pull that up. What's the best way to do this? I already have it open. That's how. Okay. Share screen. This one. Here we go. So some of the things you can do with Adon Olam. So just for a little bit of fun. Good. So let me get rid of that window.
You wrote a couple when you were this side of the pond as well.
Yeah, we did a few. Did we do any Simchat Torah Adon Olams there? I don't think we did.
What
I'm not
what
sure.
what about the one for the Schultz anniversary for the Beatles?
We didn't do Adon Olam. We just sang the song. I think we did Get By with a Little Help from My Friends. Oh, maybe I sang it on the Bima just solo.
Yeah.
Can't remember. Anyway,
You
yeah,
did one for
Jeffrey.
Her Majesty the Queen as well when
Oh
she
yeah,
celebrated her anniversary.
that's right. Jeffrey.
What one year, this was, I was still back in Vancouver. Shabbos was Christmas Day, so
Uh,
so we sang Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yisrael Nivra. It works.
That's what I mean about being irreverent. Anyway,
Well,
it's
it,
everything works.
it follows from the Lubavitcher Rebbe's saying, which says that you use the melodies from where you're located.
That's right. Yeah, there is some disagreement over that, but yes, I mean that's Jewish music in general. We always took the melodies from our surroundings. Always, always, always. I mean that's where you get Rossi in Italy doing Baroque music. That very kind of thing. So that's that. And here's another one that got a lot of attention on YouTube. This is Adon Olam with um, Mark Joseph, who's actually my cantorial student in London, and the choir Mosaic Voices. So this is a fun one. I'm going to share this, hopefully. Again, just there we go. This is the one. So this is Western Marble Arch Synagogue, Bayswater.
Adon Olam Hashem Malach B'Terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Lex Nasa Kichlot hakol lavadoim log nara V'hu haya v'hu hove v'hu yeh b'tifara
Etc. It's fun, right? You can do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so Mark actually is an interesting guy. He is a former, I know, yeah, Agnes is, it all makes me laugh. Yes, it was exactly. So it was that it's composed by Jewish composers. So much of Broadway and West End stuff is.
Well, yeah, and apparently in one thing somebody had made the comment. I don't remember what I was listening to, that it was done as a kind of a yearning. The rainbow at the end of the rainbow, the part at the end of the rainbow or whatever, or
Of
the country at the
course.
end of the rainbow was Israel, and that's what it was. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that it
One could
became
relate it
very
that way.
popular through that kind of
Yeah.
of
of course.
similar.
Yeah. And so many composers, famous composers, are inspired by Jewish content and concepts. So Mark Joseph is actually a former West End performer, and got into his Judaism more recently, and actually asked me to teach him how to lead services. So he's been leading services at that synagogue for a couple of years now, and so he's very talented. It's so interesting when he's leading services. You feel like you're in a West End show. Uh, he has that kind of a voice, but that's all right. That's all right. Oops. Right, that's good. Let's get rid of that. So that's a little bit of fun there. Okay, so what about the choreography and congregational interactions? Well, the congregation sits while singing Adon Olam, and specifically they sit, like, not if you'd like to be seated, but you should sit for Adon Olam, just like, well, I was going to say just like you sit for Shema, although there's some controversy there. A great joke about that. I could share that with you if we have time. But anyway, the congregation sits while singing Adon Olam, and the specific reason is that it's a demonstration that we're not eager to leave the house of prayer, but we're willing to stay and continue praying. And the idea is that we're starting all over again with the prayer, because Adon Olam is like you can say it at night before you go to bed, and you say it when you wake up, and it's this transition, right? So the idea is that we stay seated during Adon Olam so that we're showing we want to linger and begin the day's prayers over again. Which is, I suppose, belied by most communities' practice to stand up and remove their talitot as soon as Adon Olam starts. So there's this funny story. When I was growing up, my shul, which was a modern Orthodox synagogue, would literally instruct bar mitzvah boys. So that's why I explained that it's a Orthodox synagogue, because we didn't have bat mitzvah girls at that time. They would instruct the boy to leave the bima as soon as after they started singing Adon Olam, to go stand at the back of the sanctuary with their family in a sort of a receiving line, and people would get up and shake their hands and wish the Mazel Tov during Adon Olam. During Adon Olam. So unless the choir was singing, I have the distinct memory that Adon Olam was never finished aloud in my synagogue. Everyone was just talking and leaving. Oi. It's exactly the opposite of the point.
Orthodox.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't want to poo-poo anyone, but there you go. So what happens if there's no minyan? Well, we still say it. It is meant as a personal prayer to begin with anyway, so it doesn't need a minyan. But imagine if it did, how crowded our bedrooms would be at bedtime and when we wake up. Wait, I need to say Adon Olam. Let's gather 10 people into my bedroom. Okay, so what about variations? As I'm doing my research, I decided I love this sentence, so I just copied and pasted the whole thing. There are varying texts, and this is from Wikipedia actually. There are varying texts in the Sephardic version containing added lines. For example, 2 after line 6, 1 after line 8, and 2 after line 10. There's no more detail than that. In some traditions, the hymn comprised 6 stanzas, but the 4th stanza, which can be seen as an amplification of the 3rd, is omitted by the Ashkenazim. In others, it has 15 lines, and in yet others, it has 16 lines. What a useless paragraph. There was no other information, so I couldn't find out what was changing line to line, and I really couldn't find the information on what Adon Olam looked like at various other times. Perhaps I need to dig a little bit deeper. Any questions so far? Any anecdotes, stories, anything, any Adon Olam experiences?
I put it in the chat, but I must say, seeing men take off their talisim during Adon Olam is so annoying, and it's worse now we're egalitarian.
Because now women are taking off their talis too.
No, it's not just that. It's just that the men are near you, and then you think to yourself, whoa, wait.
I see. Right.
So my kids had fun counting the versions that they knew.
Mm-hmm. And how many is that?
Well, they counted 8 versions, which were, all fairly legitimate and just variations on the Adon Olam, on the basic melody. I kind of forgot them, and I think they forgot them as well.
Well, it does fit to anything. So we'll just, like I said, I wanted this light to be a lighter lesson. This is our last session of this series. I'm sure we'll start another series soon. But just to finish up, this is Adon Olam to the tune of "You'll Be Back" from Hamilton. The act, yeah,
Before
Jeffrey.
we go, so a couple things.
Yeah.
One is the tune which I learned back at Harvard, which is Adon Olam Asher Malach. Where'd that one come from?
Ooh, hang on one second. Let's just, bear with me a moment, and I have to see what it is in my collection, because I do have that, and it may have composer unknown, but we're going to see in a second. Shabbat binder. Let's just see. Hang on one sec. Bear with me. Nope, that's not that one. Might be Kachko. Nope, that's not Kachko either. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a composition. It's, obviously. I can look it up for you. I'm sure I could find it. You said it's Adon Olam Hashem Alach. Yeah, that one. Yeah, I'll have to get.
And it's usually done in a two-part harmony.
Yes. I have it in my collection. I have it in my collection. I'm not sure who the composer is. I'd have to dig through deeper and find the sheet and see if I have any. There are so many Adon Olam melodies composed that you often find, composer unknown, or that one. Just trying to think if I can imagine the style, and sometimes you can guess at the composer based on the style. It may be Sirota. Sirota wrote a lot of music for he was an American cantor, probably about 100 years ago, and Sirota wrote a collection, like a musical siddur. You could flip through the siddur and sing any piece of the service, and there are many of these, but it's like mostly compositions, some nusach. I'll have to check into that. I have a feeling it's Sirota, so I'll check. Okay, so
and then the other thing is,
yeah.
the other thing I wanted, another question is, so we've looked today at Musaf, and looking at the whole prayer service, Adon Olam, it's like the heart of the prayer service is the Shemona Esrei, preceded by the Shema, and then there's a lot of stuff leading away from that, and a lot of stuff leading up to it, right? So we say prayers before we say, like, there's, like, when we start Shachrit, there's the Birkat Shachar, and then there's Psuke, and then in some Sidurim, like the one I use here at home, has Tefillah, Kodem Tefillah, a prayer before you begin the prayer.
Yeah.
And so on, and then we always end with Aleinu, and then the Kaddish, and then another Psalm of the day, and then Yidal, and Adon. So there's this whole denouement and building up to it, which. So, I mean, I appreciate, the comments we're saying about, we stand, we take off our talasim and so on. But, there's a flow overall to the whole prayer service, of which this is, a way to just, like, not say, okay, we did this one Esrei, let's eat. It's a way to flow in and flow out, so that there's this davening.
Right.
My mom says a continuum. Mom's here. So I just wanted to observe that, even though we've been focusing on, this part of it today and over the weeks, that there's a bigger sort of a bigger structure to our prayer services
that holds it all together.
Yeah.
The continuum is what holds it together.
That's
Where's
right.
my
Yasher
mom?
Koach. I like that. I like that very much. And it's very much
So
in line with
your
oh,
comments.
sorry.
So so I just want to get your comments on that. So
Yeah. So yes, thank you very much. Absolutely. And I didn't mean to entirely knock the concept of what happens during Adon Olam. Although I will say this is very perceptive and very right. Um, that as we've continuously said throughout our studies, and you've heard me say it many many times in other educational fora and so forth, the idea of preempting and transition and exposition and foreshadowing is huge in Nusach in general, and certainly in the prayer services. And yes, Adon Olam marks a transition. Yes, to the end of service, to going home, to Kiddush, and so on and so forth. So no, seriously, I mean, remember when we had Kiddush? Um, but yeah, that comment is very astute. That this is yet another opportunity to transition to something different, to transition to the next phase. Um, Again, part of it spiritually, the intention is that it's a starting over, that we're going to continue praying, because that's what Adon Olam does. It wakes us up in the morning, it gets us ready for another day of prayers. But there's also the current events transition, that it's at the part of the service when we are about to either go socialize or go home, or whatever it is. And that is very important. Very nice. Yasher koach. So I thought, are there any other questions or comments? This is a great time for discussion. Okay. So I think we'll close out our session with um, a little bit of fun from Broadway. This is Adon Olam to the tune of "You'll Be Back," the only actual singable song from the phenomenon rap musical Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda. This version was originally pilfered by my friend and colleague Cantor Ozzy Schwartz at Park Avenue Synagogue in New York City, and he kindly sent it to me on my request so I could have some fun last Shabbat Shirah when the choir couldn't get together. So this is Adon Olam to the tune of "You'll Be Back." And I just have to pull it up. Where is it? Just a second. Error. That didn't work. Why not? Okay, bear with me a moment. Where did I put it? Bear with me, sorry. There we go. I have to share my screen. Share screen, there we go. All right.
Shalom b'romav hu yaseh shalom aleinu.
Talk about transitions.
Oseh
Shalom.
Shalom b'romav hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'yimru amen. Al kol Yisrael ve'yimru amen. Adon Olam Hashem alach b'terem kol yitzir nivra liyet nasa b'chefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kipot hakol levado yimloch nora behu haya behu hovel behu yeh betifara Adon Olam Hashem alach da-da-da-da da-da-da-da yada da-da-da-da yada da-da-da-da da-da-da-da yada da-da-da-da behu echad ve'ein sheni lehamshilo lehachbira beli reshit beli tachlit belo oz v'hamisra ehu eli v'chai goli v'tzochev li ba'ein והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום אקרא אדון עולם השם מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא להתנסה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא בידו אגיד רוחי והייתי שן בעירה וימרוחי גביעתי אדוני לי ולא יירא טה-רה-רה-רה טה-טה-רה-רה-טה-ירה טה-רה-רה-טה-טה-ירה טה-רה-רה-רה-טה-טה-רה-רה-טה-ירה טה-רה-רה-טה-טה. Everybody! טה-רה-רה-רה-טה טה-טה-רה-רה-טה-ירה טה-רה-רה-טה-טה-ירה Shabbat Shalom.
All right. Enough of that. Good. So we are done with our session. There's no class next week, even though we had it on the schedule. When you get to the end of your your Musaf service and it's Adon Olam, I don't see as stretching it out one more week. But we will come up with other series like this to learn together. Do stay tuned and keep in touch. And if you have any questions along the way, Jeffrey, I'm going to look up that Adon Olam and see if I can find that for you. And it's been great to study with you all, and have a happy Mother's Day for those celebrating. And I will see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much,
Thank
Jason.
you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.